Greetings everyone, and welcome to another Sol at the Movies. This time I'm going to be recapping the best to worst animated movies of 2017. Now, I like to start with the best just so I can get them out of the way so I can talk about the worst, which are the ones people usually find more entertaining. Now, these are just going to be the movies that I featured in the Sol at the Movies videos. So, movies like the Lego Batman movie and Loving Vincent and Leap are not going to be on this list because I didn't actually see them in theaters. Well, I did see the Lego Batman movie in theaters, and it was very good, but I didn't do a Sol at the Movies on it, so unfortunately that doesn't count. So just ones I've done on Sol at the Movies videos. Alright? Well, let's get started. So the best animated movie out of the year has to be Pixar's Coco. Now, the reason why this one is the best is just because it was the one that had the most heart. It was put together the best as well. It was visually stunning, very colorful. It did take me for a bit of a ride in terms of how the story progressed, how the characters were in terms of their personality. It played with my expectations a little bit, and the soundtrack was incredible. Just everything about it was extremely solidly constructed. My only criticism was that it may have been better without a villain, although it really isn't even much of a criticism. It's just something I thought about halfway through the movie that I figured it wasn't going to have an antagonist of any sort, but then it did, and I was kind of like, oh, it's a little bit of a surprise. But really, Coco is just a fantastically constructed movie. You can tell it's a movie that was made with the passion and the energy and the love coming straight from the creators' hearts. So it's definitely the best movie of the year, in my opinion. Next would be Captain Underpants, the first epic movie by DreamWorks. Now, this one I would say is second best, just because, while it isn't anything amazing in my eyes, it is a very genuine movie in that it was very faithful to the source material, it wasn't pandering or stupid, it didn't add any guff to the story, it was just a simple tale about two boys who accidentally create a superhero. Now, yeah, there were some changes from the book, but none of them were distracting or stupid or unnecessary or anything like that. They just served to, well, enhance it as a media transition. So it was a genuinely sweet movie, just very earnest, nothing too crazy. It was just fine, you know, but this year fine means it was like way above everything else, really. Being fine is a huge accolade I can give in this year of animation. So yeah, Captain Underpants, it's a nice, sweet, simple experience, and it was definitely one of my favorites. And next would be Cars 3 by Disney. Now, I don't think this movie is amazing or anything like that, but a lot like Captain Underpants, I can see that it was a story the creators genuinely wanted to tell, unlike Cars 2. Because Cars 3 is about age and about getting older and how to deal with that sort of thing, and I think maybe some of the higher-ups at Pixar might be feeling that sentiment, and that's why I think it works in that regard. Of course, the animation was amazing, the score was pretty good, it was just pretty good overall. It wasn't really surprising or anything like that. Didn't really care for the ending too much, but I think that Lightning McQueen himself was, well, the best he's ever been in all these Cars movies in this movie. So that's something I can commend, although the villain just sucked balls. Still, you know, nothing special, but it didn't leave me incredibly frustrated like Cars 2 did. It was just nice. Nice movie overall. And next will be My Little Pony, the movie. So again, this is another movie that is so formulaic that when I first saw it, I said that this would be the first page in a screenwriting 101 for dummies type thing, in that it's so incredibly formulaic that you can predict everything that's going to come about 30 minutes before it happens. But for what it's worth, the animation is appealing, it's nice and colorful, I like the songs in it, they're very good, the villain song is great. As I said, I still listen to it to this day, I love singing it. Even though the villain herself is not that great, I think her villain song is very amazing. Overall, it was a competent movie. So nothing incredible, you know, nothing gonna blow you out of your seat or anything like that. But if you're already a pony fan, then, you know, there's nothing wrong with seeing it. It could have been a lot worse, is what I'm saying. My big criticism was that, well, it should have come out a lot earlier, but sometimes things, you know, they happen and that can't be the way it goes. So yeah, My Little Pony the movie, for what it was worth, it was entertaining. And yeah, that's how it goes. And next would be Ferdinand. So Ferdinand is starting to fall a little bit more on the worse end of the spectrum, in that the first half of it was just boring, but then the second half of it started to get really, really, really obnoxious. So for about half of it, it was kind of like, whatever. The reason I put this higher than some of the others is because I think John Cena did a genuinely good job as Ferdinand, which I said that wrestlers are not usually very good at being actors, even though technically a lot of their job is acting. So, as a voice actor, I think he's okay. And visually, it was alright, if maybe a little bit bland. There's really not much more to say about it. It was just very bland until it started getting extremely irritating. Lupe the goat was horrid, but compared to some of the other horrid characters I saw this year, she wasn't, like, the worst ever. So yeah, Ferdinand just kind of falls a little bit more in the middle. And next would be the star. So, the star, well, it was a lot better than I thought it would be. I thought, based on the trailers, that it was gonna be horrendous. Again, much like Ferdinand, there's almost nothing to say about it. It's just a very standard, competent telling of the story. Not that I can really criticize that or anything. Dave the Dove is less irritating than I thought he would be. The only thing that was really irritating about the movie was the soundtrack, which was very overbearing and it was not utilized properly in a lot of places, but really, considering how bad it could have been, I'm willing to say that it was okay, really, just sort of okay all throughout. There was no point in the movie where I thought, oh, this just sucks ass and I should leave, except maybe the camels. I didn't like the camels, but whatever. So I'm willing to give it a pass because of how bad I actually thought it would be, and it actually ended up being better than that. So yeah, take that for what you will, I guess. And next is Despicable Me 3. So, as I said before, this is probably the best Despicable Me movie that there's been, although to me that's not saying much because I absolutely abhor Despicable Me 1 and 2. This one, I think, its only saving grace is the fact that Trey Parker is in it, which I mentioned before, and he's great. I mean, Trey Parker's always great. There's no way I could possibly hate anything that Trey Parker does, even when he's acting like a complete moron. You know, he brings a nice life to the villain, and yeah, I mean, that's really the only thing that elevates it above the others in my eyes. It still has a bunch of annoying minion shit that's unnecessary. It's still misleading in that you think Gru's brother's going to be the villain, but he's not. It's just loud and obnoxious and pandering and stupid, but the fact that Trey Parker's in it and he does a good job means I can't hate it that much. I mean, I do dislike it, but I'm not quite at hate yet, is what I'm trying to say. So, that's basically it for that. And next is the Lego Ninjago movie. So originally when I reviewed this movie for my Saw at the Movies video, I was kind of forgiving towards it, as in, I liked that it was very bombastically animated just like the other Lego movies, and it was, I mean, it had an incredibly bizarre through line. These are things I noticed as a critic, but I mentioned that I had never seen the series that I thought it might have been based on, which was Masters of Spinjitzu. So I now have a much better perspective on the movie itself, and I hate it a lot more. So now we're on the hate end of it. It is so disrespectful to the source material. The fact that they used their inflated budget and didn't do anything with it other than become more stupid is very frustrating to me. And yes, it's animated well, but why? You know, if the series is capable of telling these great stories without a crazy huge budget, then why is this crazy huge budget movie so pathetic at its storytelling? The characters are non-existent and completely unimportant anyway, except for Lloyd, who's constant bitching about his father Garmadon. It's so irritating. The whole movie is really irritating. And not just in comparison to the show, now that I have some context on that, but just in general movie sense, it's irritating because it's kind of based on the show, but not really, so you can't really watch it as a fan, but you can't really watch it as a newcomer either, because it kind of expects you to know this stuff already, even though it changes the story. It's a clusterfuck, and this is the first time I've ever gone back to a movie and, like, really disliked it compared to my original view on it. So yeah, this one is definitely lower on the list. And next is The Boss Baby. So The Boss Baby is just an hour and a half, or however long it is, of just pandering baby shit, and you probably all know by now that I hate that. And yes, it's well animated just like other DreamWorks stuff, but the fact that they don't use that animation budget for anything meaningful or interesting really pisses me off. The fact that they're like, oh, it's a story about babies, and we don't need anything else. It's about babies, and people will swallow it. They'll accept it because it's cute baby shit. And people did, and they're making a sequel to it, which is just... like, it seems like they decided to make a sequel before the movie even came out, which I wouldn't be surprised if that was the truth. But I had to sit there and watch this stupid, trite, pandering baby garbage. I'll just never get over it. I despise this movie with all my heart, and that's all I'm going to say about that. And next is the Emoji Movie. Now, this one usually seems to top people's worst lists, but it's not quite mine. Yes, it's got the pandering, horrible mentality that it doesn't use a single one of its dollars, that it's budgeted properly, its characters are obnoxious, its story is horrible, it's just one gigantic advertisement, but in a bad way, not like the Lego Movie, just for Spotify, the fact that Twitter saves the day. Everything about this movie is terrible, but the thing is that everyone's already torn it to shreds. Everybody knows it's terrible. It's very popular to hate on this movie because it's so memey and everything like that, so I'm not going to go into any more detail than that because everybody knows at this point this movie is hot garbage, it's despicable, and it needs to go away and never return. And my number one most hated, worst movie of the year, animated at least, is The Nut Job 2. Whoo boy. Now, this movie, most people don't even realize that there was a worse movie than the Emoji Movie because of how popular it was to hate on the Emoji Movie, and I can understand that, but The Nut Job 2 is so paralyzingly awful that I still can't even believe what I saw, and it's been like 6 months since I saw it, pretty much. It's just a non-stop barrage of noise and color and screaming and motion and dogs eating puke, and it's every single millisecond of this movie is horrid, just from start to finish. Now, I said in my original video that I had never considered walking out of the Emoji Movie, but within the first 10 minutes of The Nut Job, I was begging to leave, like, because I was there with a friend, I didn't, but if I'd been there alone, I would have walked out, for sure. It was that horrible. Every single tiny, minuscule detail of that movie seems like it was personally designed to piss me off. And the fact that it's like the lowest grossing movie of all time to be released in over 2,000 theaters is just a testament to how god awful that movie is. Now, The Nut Job, the original, was bad, but it wasn't anything terrible in my eyes. It was just sort of bland and stupid. But this one is, it's like, it feels like getting a brand on your back. Like, you'll never forget how awful this movie is. It's like taking really bad drugs and then every so often you have a really bad flashback to them. That's what this movie is like. It's like a flashback to a really bad drug trip. And I can't think of any other movie that deserves the worst spot in my eyes. This thing is just plain awful. Now, in terms of the entire year itself, 2017 was a terrible year for animated movies. Most of them were average at best, with a couple standouts. Now, like I said, I didn't review the Lego Batman movie, which I personally would rate one of the better movies of the year. I'm not sure about Loving Vincent or Leap, but whatever. This is just, these were just my views on the the movies that I saw this year. Most of them sucked, but hopefully we'll get some better stuff in 2018. I'm sure that, Sherlock Gnomes is gonna be great? Yeah, that's gonna be a good movie, I'm sure. And that's all I have to say about that.